Welcome to Little Z Farm. I'm Katie, and my husband and I moved out here a little over 5 years ago. We have quite a bit of acreage that we haven't done a lot with yet, but we're getting there. This is kind of the year for us to kind of focus in on our homestead and kind of expand the way that we want to. We just got our first goats. We're hoping to raise dairy goats. We are hoping to get hogs someday soon. And there's a lot of expansion and a lot of things that we're trying to learn right now and really soak in so that we can really get our farm to where we want it to be. That being said, I kind of want to take it back where it all started for us, and that was with laying hens. We loved the idea of raising our own chickens for eggs. We thought it would be so cool to be able to go out in the morning, grab our own eggs for breakfast. We were really excited to be able to offer our chickens the ability to free range and to graze and pick at whatever they wanted to during the day, and that when they were in their run, that they were in a safe place with plenty of room and that we knew exactly what they were eating. This means that we knew exactly the type of eggs that we were going to get. Let me tell you, there is a difference between a farm fresh egg and the eggs that you sometimes buy at the store. And one of the coolest things about chickens is that anyone can raise them. Yes, you can raise chickens for eggs, trust me. My husband and I had no idea what we were doing when we got chickens, and that's okay. Both he and I were raised in suburbia. We knew we wanted chickens, but we didn't really know how to go about that. We didn't know where we'd get a chicken. We didn't know how to make a hen lay an egg. And we had a lot of questions, like, do we need a rooster? If the eggs are fertilized, does that mean I can't eat them? Are we gonna have this giant mess that we have to clean up after our chickens? Do I just let my chickens go and they just figure it out? Also, we both work full time, so is it gonna be a problem if we can't get home to put our chickens away? And can we still travel for work? Do we have to hire a farmhand to take care of the chickens? Anyway, we had a ton of questions, and we kind of just answered them as we went. I want to answer all those questions for everyone, and I'm going to do it in a series. We'll start with the basics, the things people just want to know, the top 10 myths about chickens debunked. Move on to raising your chicks. Get a little bit into detail on chicken infrastructure, what you need for a protected and healthy chicken, and then of course, making sure that your hens are happy and healthy. So join me on this 4-part series on raising chickens for eggs. And yes, you can do it. Whether you live on 100 acres, have a small farm that you're trying to grow, or even curious about raising backyard chickens, I got you. Subscribe below to make sure that you catch all parts of the series. Let's go ahead and get this started. Part 1, myths of raising chickens for eggs debunked. Myth number 1, you need a rooster for hens to lay eggs. False. Hens will lay eggs regardless of whether or not you have a rooster, and in some counties and municipalities, you can't have a rooster. But just because you don't have a rooster doesn't mean your hens won't lay eggs consistently. In fact, all it means is that you won't have fertilized eggs. So unless you're planning on hatching eggs, or you need a rooster for just a little bit of that extra protection for your hens, you don't need one. But that brings me to the second myth. All roosters are mean. I can tell you, we've never had a mean rooster. A rooster is going to be protective of their hens. So if you're running around and chasing roosters and trying to disrupt the flock, a rooster is gonna stand its ground. But the thing is, we've raised all of our chickens from chicks. They're used to people. They understand that we're the boss. So we've never had a problem with a rooster being mean. I think sometimes protective might be misinterpreted as mean. And roosters got a job to do. Little note, they're not great livestock guardians. So if you do want a rooster for that extra bit of protection for your hens, or you want a rooster because they're beautiful, most roosters are actually stunning. My best recommendation is to get them as chicks and let them grow up around people. That way, they understand that you're a part of this team. Our favorite rooster, we named him Diablo because we assumed he was going to be mean and a devil to deal with. But it turns out he was one of the best chickens that we ever had. He actually died standing up for his hens, and we actually really missed him when he was gone. So that's myth number 2, debunked. Myth number 3, you can't eat fertilized eggs. So you decided you want a rooster. I have some news for you. If you have a rooster, most of your eggs are going to be fertilized. But this doesn't mean you can't eat them. It's just simply not true. There's a lot of things that have to go right and a lot of proper conditions for an egg that's fertilized to turn in and develop into a baby chick. And the thing is, if you're collecting your eggs regularly, which we do every day or every other day, you're not going to have an issue with that. You can eat fertilized eggs, and actually you can't tell just by looking at an egg that it's fertilized. So that means you're probably not even going to notice. So don't worry about that. The 4th myth, debunked. When you're raising your own chickens for eggs, the eggs have to be refrigerated immediately to be consumed. Okay, this is a common misconception. The eggs do not have to be refrigerated immediately to be consumed, and in fact, when we're just consuming eggs for ourselves, we don't refrigerate them at all. In the United States, commercially produced eggs have to be stored at 45 degrees or lower, and that's to reduce the risk of chicken-based illnesses that spread like salmonella. Here at our farm, we made the personal decision to not store our eggs in the fridge. We get our eggs out of the coop within a day or 2, and then we store them at room temperature in our house. But the other part of this is that we don't wash our eggs with water. And if you don't wash your eggs with water, that means that protective shell on the outside can still remain intact to help prevent disease from getting into the eggs. If the eggs that you're getting are just for your family's own consumption, you get to make a decision on whether or not you refrigerate them. But keep in mind, if you're washing your eggs with water or some other form of liquid, you gotta pop them into the fridge after you do that. I'll talk way more about that later on in the series. It is required by law that if you're selling eggs or giving eggs away to people, that they are stored at 45 degrees or lower. But I just wanted to get it out there that sometimes refrigerating eggs is just not necessary. And at the very least, you don't have to worry about running out to the coop as soon as your hen lays to gather up the eggs and put them in the fridge. Okay, myth number 5. Hens lay an egg every day. False. How often your hen lays depends on a lot of different things. It depends on their nutrition and what they're eating. It depends on what time of the year it is. What season is it? How much light is there during the day? And honestly, it just depends on what type and breed of chicken that you have. But there are chickens that are good for laying eggs, there are chickens that are good for meat, and then there are hybrid chickens that are kind of good for both. But there are some chickens that lay an egg almost every day. And if you're looking to get as much bang for your buck, then that's the type of breed that you want to go with. When the days get shorter and there's less light, the chickens tend to lay fewer eggs. If you live in a place that has extreme weather, and in Missouri we can get to extremes. It can get really, really cold and really, really hot. We've also noticed the egg production go down then as well. And of course, we've had a lot of different breeds on our farm, and so some are more prolific layers than others. The older a chicken gets, the less it will lay. But we have found that our chickens seem to lay for quite a while. I'm talking years here. But we've overall been really pleased with how many eggs that we've been able to get out of a single chicken. So at the end of the day, you want to account for the fluctuations in egg laying. And I think that just helps you determine how many chickens that you'll need for your family. And we'll talk more about that later too. Myth number 6. Darker eggs or brown eggs are better for you than white eggs or light eggs. This is also false, and honestly, it was something that I didn't know at all when we started doing this. I remember when we picked up chicks, I thought, we need to make sure that we get the ones that lay the brown eggs, because I know those are better for you than the white eggs. The color has nothing to do with it. What your chickens eat and how they're living their life plays a lot more into the nutritional value of your eggs. It's just a lot of times at the store, you're buying those bulk white eggs. And so it's kind of this like negative connotation for the white eggs. But there are chickens that you can raise ethically and humanely that lay white eggs that are just as good for you as the brown ones are. And those farm fresh eggs, and by farm fresh, I just mean, you know, fresh, like could be backyard fresh. It doesn't have to be a farm. Those eggs, you can see the difference when you crack them open, and you can feel them on the outside. If your chickens are getting everything that they need, the shell is gonna be harder, the yolk is gonna be darker, and they're gonna taste a lot better. A lot of the bulk suppliers of eggs are running and operating facilities where the chickens are caged in every day and don't even have room to walk around. And they don't have access to forage, to all the good stuff that chickens really like and that really help them thrive. So you could see why nature would kind of prevent a high quality egg from coming from that bird. The good news is, if you're raising chickens and you're spending just a little bit of effort into making sure that they have the things that they need to be happy and healthy, your eggs, regardless of color of the eggs, are going to be delicious and nutritious. Myth number 7, chickens stink. Actually, a chicken doesn't smell like much of anything. I guess it smells like a bird, but it isn't much of anything. In the coop, if you either clean it out regularly or use the deep littering method like we do, which I'll explain in a different video, then you end up with not very much stank at all. And the deep littering method means that you're only doing a deep clean 2 or 3 times a year. And of course, our chickens free range during the day, which means they're outside of their coop and their run during the day, and they go back to eat some and sleep at night. So if you have a run and you have a coop and it's taken care of one way or another, you don't have to worry about the extra stink that goes along with barn animals. So that's the 7th myth, debunked. Myth number 8. Chickens are dumb and they need a lot of human intervention to survive. So, is the chicken as smart as your dog? I guess that depends on what type of dog you have. Okay, but maybe not. You're not gonna teach the chicken to sit, most likely, and they may not come what they're called, but they will come for food, I will tell you that. Chickens have a natural desire for survival. Chickens know where they get their supplemental food, and they know it comes from you. So in the mornings, if I let the chickens out, they'll come right up to the stable where we keep the food. Chickens also know that they're no match for really any predator. Almost anything is a predator to a chicken, and so they know that they need to be back in their coop by dusk or there's gonna be problems. Yes, it takes a little bit of effort at the beginning with your new hens to let them know where their space is, where their safe spot is. And we have spent evenings ushering chickens back to their home space, but eventually they figure it out. It's pretty cool that they can do that. Myth number 9, chickens attract bugs and other creatures. Coolest thing that I learned about chickens after we had them. Chickens eat bugs. Tick problem? Chickens are good for that. And all those other bugs? That's like prime eating for a chicken. And so chickens don't attract bugs, they help eliminate them. Of course, it's like the beauty and the circle of life, right? We feed the chickens, we give them a home, and they help keep the bugs under control. It's pretty awesome. Aside from bugs, we've never had an issue with rats or mice or things like that getting into the coop or living with our chickens. Because if you remember, chickens aren't these smelly, nasty animals. You just gotta take care of them. That means the chickens are bringing even more to the farm than you think. It's not just eggs. They're taking care of a bug problem. They can help you in your garden. They're providing their droppings for compost. They're pretty incredible beings. So that's another myth debunked. And myth number 10, the final myth of this top 10. Chickens are hard to raise. No. Chickens are the easiest to raise of all of your animals. So if you're deciding whether you want chickens to raise for eggs right now, don't let that idea be the things that turns you off to them. Because chickens aren't that hard to raise. Yes, there are some things that you need to know before you get into raising chickens for eggs, but I'm gonna cover that all in this series. And I think by the end of the series, you'll be feeling pretty confident about raising chickens yourself. Because yes, you can raise chickens for eggs. You can do this. Make sure you subscribe below so you can check out the next video in this series. In the next video, we're going to be talking about selecting the chickens or chick breeds that you want for your family. We're going to be going over how to care for baby chicks and how to prepare for the arrival of them on your property. After that, we're going to be talking about infrastructure. What you need for a coop, a run. What is a coop? What is a run? And how to make sure that your chickens are protected to the best of your ability. In the final part of the series, we'll talk about the hens. You raise these chickens, now what? How do you keep them happy and healthy and producing? There's a lot more to learn, so I really appreciate you joining us here at Little Z Farm, and I'll talk to you next time.